and just welcome everyone again for joining us this evening. Thank you very much. It's great to have you all. I just want to pick up on a point from our last meeting, which was about ordering leaflets and posters. So we now have, don't know if you can really see that, it's a bit blurred, but we've got plenty of leaflets and we've also got posters to go with the leaflets. We've just been asking for a £3 donation if possible. If it's not possible, just email me and let me know how many leaflets and posters you would like, and we'll do our best to accommodate everyone. In terms of social media, it didn't really look like there was one particular area that everyone wanted training on. So I'm just suggesting that if there's anyone who would like a wee run through on Instagram or Facebook, just again email me and I can just organise a one-to-one chat with you, and we can look at what particular issues that you might be having on different platforms and we can work together from there. Really quickly on tonight's programme. In a second, we've got Mary Beth Graham with us this evening to talk us through her PhD. So looking forward to hearing more about that. You might have seen on social media that Mary Beth is looking for your stories. So let's hear more from her in a second. Then we've got a wee slot about for stall holders, so about stall packages that are available to you in the absence of tradecraft. So we're going to hear from Lorna at the One World shop and Tracy and Karena from True Origin, and there'll be time for some questions after that. Then we've got Dunscore here this evening to tell us about their success as a fair trade group, and with a particular focus, I think, on schools. So looking forward to hearing more from Matthew this evening about that. And then we've got 20 minutes put aside for general discussion about what works for your group. But it's over to you for that. I'll facilitate that and look for hands popping up and comments in the chat. But please just use that as a chance to speak to each other about what works for your group. And then we've just got a few announcements at the end of the event this evening. And yeah, I will do my best to capture any links, etc., and pop them out in an email to you over the next couple of days, anything that we've discussed or links that we've popped in the chat as we go along. So I think it's just over to you, Mary Beth, to start. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me just quickly get this presentation. Is that okay set up? Yeah? Brilliant. Okay, thank you again so much for having me this evening. My name is Mary Beth. I am here from the University of Glasgow, and I am currently in my second year doing a PhD that is relating to fair trade. Really briefly, a bit about me, just to give you a picture of sort of where I'm coming from and what I'm up to. My undergraduate degree was in international fashion branding. I did that at Glasgow Caledonian, and as I was going through that course, I realised basically how bad the fashion industry is, and how much really needs changed and overhauled in that space in terms of consumption and waste, and environmental impact as well as human rights impact. So that's where I finally found my sort of my space and my calling. And so I went on to look at human rights law and business at Strathclyde Uni, really focusing on fashion in particular, but also just trying to understand how supply chains work, the way they work, that means that corporations can get away with certain things, that different states can get away with certain things. And that has sort of led me to where I am today. So I am doing a 4-year project. I have done the first foundational year that was a master's, and I'm now in my second year of the making of a fair trade nation. And it's looking at the development of fair trade business ethics and practice in Scotland. And we've really carved out the space between 1980 and 2013. So 1980 going right back to when things were very grassroots, things were very much led by individual activists, by incredible people, many of whom are in the room with us, right up to 2013 when we achieved Fair Trade Nation status. And so just to give you like the kind of big picture of the research questions that I'm kind of tugging at and looking closer at, understanding what the concept of fair trade was, what it is, how it was established, how different people have different takes on it, um, what have made for successful and unsuccessful fair trade initiatives, both of them equally as valuable in learning. Um, then the bit that I'm really loving is looking at the very local level stuff right up to the global and how that is interrelated in an incredible way, especially within Scotland. And looking at sort of how that slots into bigger picture things to do with market economy and civil society. And what has enjoyed a distinctive Scottish profile? So why is it that Scotland has really stood out, has always championed fair trade? What is it about the politics here, about the culture here, about the people here, the environment that's meant that fair trade is celebrated and supported in the way that it is, specifically within Scotland? And finally, it kind of comes to you. So it's how do all the different actors within that space, how do you all relate to one another? How does everything overlap? How do all the sort of puzzle pieces come together? And then how do you all relate to these bigger international structures and the bigger partners that are at play? So, as I'm sure you understand, just to like kind of highlight the key themes of what I have been looking at in my first year is things to do with ethics of consumption, obviously the concerns around the conditions of production, the reasoning for fair trade, why do we have it, why do we fight for it, elements of just pricing, and again, like I said, bringing that global context right down to really localized settings across Scotland. And so obviously, I can't give all the, being someone that has not been active in the fair trade movement for a long time, um, I don't have all the answers for that. And so the whole point in this project is to really bring the stories to light. And that relies on the people that were there and the people that have done the work. So the way that I'm doing sort of data collection is through a mixture of oral history interviews and archival research. Largely the archive that I've used so far is within Scottish Fair Trade because some heroes have gripped hold of pages and pages and pages of meeting minutes and filed it all for me. Um, but as you can imagine, there are large gaps in the story that that tells. And that story is being told about the Fair Trade Forum, but I also need to capture stories from up and down Scotland, and I want to capture the stories of local communities, of faith groups, of the different local organisations, of different businesses that have started, that have maybe changed, grown, closed down, everything. I'm trying to sort of catch it all. So that's where it comes to, as Catherine said, where I'm sort of asking for your help with this. I'm now at the very exciting stage, and just to acknowledge that I've already heard from some people in the call tonight, offering their time for me to interview you. So it would just be a conversation looking at understanding more about things like your original motivations for getting involved in fair trade. Um, what did your activism look like? What really stood out? What did you enjoy the most? What did you feel was the most effective? What are your experiences for campaigning for fair trade goods? And I know that changes from good to good and from different industries as well. What was your involvement in Scotland's fair trade achievements, and particularly looking at this fair trade nation status? But while that's at the end of the 2013, it has been amazing to see how that story begins so much longer before that, and how the seeds have been sown over and over and over again to make that come to fruition in 2013. And really just understanding your personal perspectives on Scotland's wider contributions to fair trade as the wider social justice movement. So that's the sort of interviews, focus groups, elements of that. And I am looking to start getting in touch with people and planning those in. I can be meeting on video calls, I can come to you, we can talk about the sort of logistics all around that. I can also be very open about what it would be that we would be discussing. There are obviously some like ethical implications of that. So there's like a participant information sheet that I would be asking you to sign off in advance that just gives a bit more consent about what's involved in the process. But besides all of that, it really is just a conversation with people to understand what did you bring to fair trade and how did you contribute to this incredible thing that's made a difference in Scotland. And then the other part of it, which is a bit of a smaller part of it, but equally important, is also asking if anyone has anything sitting about that could add to the archive element of this. So that could be anything from boxes that you've got stuck away in the loft that you've forgotten about, documents that you've got in a drawer or in the office, old photos that you think are brilliant in capturing the community elements of what work you've done, or old files and folders on your computer. I've already had someone realising that they've still got a file of when they went for a fair trade status in their community, and that's a golden nugget to me. So things that maybe you've held on to, it has so much value to what this research is. And if you would be willing to share bits of it, elements of it, or the whole thing with me, I would really, really love to hear from you. And that's it. I'm not going to take millions more of time because there's much more important things to chat about. But I know that Catherine's going to follow up tonight's conversation with a copy of the slides. That is my student email, which I know is a bit of it's not the easiest thing. So that'll also be in there as well. And I would really welcome you to get in touch. There is no story that's not a valuable story within what I'm doing, and you'd be amazed at how the different people that have laid the groundwork to this, how it's all come together so far already, and what little I've managed to do has been fantastic. So thank you again so much for your time.
Thanks, Mary Beth. It's yeah, it sounds so interesting, and I can't wait to yeah, see what comes of it all. Just a couple of things. So Kat Ramsey in Aberdeen in the chat is saying that she's been given documents and photos from the last 20 years, and she doesn't have anywhere to put it, so she'd be happy to donate them to you. But that also reminds me that when we were celebrating the 10th anniversary last year, we put together a bit of an online timeline. So people uploaded photos and letters and bits and bobs. So I'll send that link to you, Mary Beth, and I'll send it round everyone just to remind us of what we did in 2023. Yeah, and just regarding Fair Trade Nation status, absolutely, we've got the people in the room who have contributed to that. And just a quick spoiler, Louise has got a wee announcement a bit later on this evening. So yeah, thanks again, Mary Beth. That's amazing, and I hope that lots of people get in touch to share their stories. Okay, so yeah, if there's any questions for Mary Beth, just pop them in the chat and we can try and cover them when we've got some time, perhaps near the end. But we're going to move on to stall holders. So we've been asked, or there was discussion in the last session that we had just about packages available for stall holders in the absence of tradecraft. So we have Lorna from the One World shop, and we have Tracy and Karena from True Origin. Both are going to tell us about their different offerings. But we're going to start with Lorna. If you would like to go ahead, Lorna, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Lorna. I've been working at One World Shop for 15 years. So I just wanted to mention, Mary Beth, we have archives going back to the 80s of like annual reports. So please come and have a raid through all the boxes we've got in the back of the stock room. Um, anyway, sorry. Yeah, we've been doing stalls for a really long time, including with Tradecraft. It used to be very laborious, a lot of paperwork, but we have since streamlined it. And we have a lot of stall holders all across the country, in Wales and London, because you can order online now. So you can go online, register yourself, or you can come into the shop and register yourself, and then you're set up and you just get a blanket 10% discount. And the way it works is you can try and sell your stuff and then return it. If it's not sold, we'll give you a refund or store credit. And you can do it by post or you can come in person and do it. It's quite straightforward. We're happy to do it the way that works for you. So if you need to pay by an invoice or whatever, we can sort that out. In regards to like packages, you can basically have anything that we sell in the shop and beyond that. So we had a customer recently who wanted cartons of juice and chocolate bars for their like youth club, and they'd also mentioned that they use a lot of cling film in their cafe. So we found them some sustainable compostable cling film that they could use in their cafe as well. So it's quite adjustable to your needs. If you wanted to do a themed stall, say you wanted to do a Mother's Day stall that had handbags and scarves and cards, you would pay for them up front, but if you didn't sell them, you can return everything. Obviously, there's the usual tea and coffee and chocolate bars, which a lot of our customers return before they go out of date, take new stock and keep it on rotation. So there's quite a lot of options. Um, One of our customers, who's actually also a volunteer, she is doing a food bank stall. So she's going to be buying things in bulk because we order from Suma and Green City, who do a lot of fair trade and sustainable products. And her customers have been buying things like washing up liquid, which then we'll buy for her in bulk, give her an extra discount, and she can then donate to a food bank. So there's quite a lot of options. So it really depends on who you are, what you want to do, um, and who your customer is. It's yeah, quite customizable. So you can do anything you want really, as long as we have it in stock or we can get it in stock. Um, we use Royal Mail if you're not local, which is fairly reasonably priced. Um, and yeah, we just charge costs for delivery. If it's a big order, we've got couriers. We try and keep all the shipping costs down. So um, yeah, it sounds quite complicated, but it's just that there's so many options. Really depends on who you are, and what you need and what you want. And obviously you get your 10% discount and you can return what you want. Um, I hope that wasn't too confusing for you. Hopefully, I think most of you know about what stalls are anyway, but there's so many options. If anyone's got any questions or wants to speak to me about it, I'm here Monday to Friday. You can give me a call, you can pop in, you can send me an email, and I'll get my details added to the round email at the end. So
That's brilliant. Thanks
thanks very
very much.
much.
I'll add that in for you. Yes, I didn't realize it was just so flexible. That's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for that. That's great. Hopefully that's really useful for everyone. And then we are going to move to Tracy and Karena.
Hi, thanks for having us. My name's Tracy. I'm the MD at True Origin. I'm also a stallholder in my church, which is how I got into fair trade in the first place, and I've been doing that since, oh yeah, let's not think about it, too long ago, early 2000s, maybe before. So I know what it's like trying to run a stall, and I know what it's like having things go out of date and so on. And I would have to say that some of what Lorna's just been talking about in terms of small stalls and sale or return is fantastic, and not what we offer direct from True Origin. So what we offer, you don't have to register with us. You basically go onto our online shop as any online retail customer would, and we do not offer sale or return. So it is about buying the products that you believe you can sell on your store. We do a lot of our own products that you'll be aware of, potentially True Origin Kilimanjaro rice, the products from Meru herbs, those sorts of things. But over the last few years, we've been significantly increasing our range, including what we now refer to as friends. So you can buy your Divine Chocolate, your Cafe Direct coffee, products from Zaytoon, Liberation, Equal Exchange, Tropical Whole Foods, a lot of these other producers of fair trade, and with that also the likes of Ultramercato, so that brings in pasta, but in the lead up to Christmas it brings in the likes of panettone and so on. So there's a huge range of almost exclusively food products. We do a small amount of what we consider complementary non-food products. Catherine, is it possible for me to share our screen? Let me just see if I can get it showing. You're just seeing my Zoom screen, aren't you? That's no good. Let me just try again. Despite having it open, it's not letting me. Just a second, and I will. What I was going to do is show.
If you click on it as you just now, and then when you come to share it, it somehow magically wants to share that because you've clicked on it.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah.
Well, I have clicked on it. Let me come out of share and go back into share.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting just the same selection. I won't bother. I'll just talk about it. So what I was going to share was the screen that shows you what our online shop looks like. And specifically the screen that has the discount sort of structure on it. So for us, you get free mainland UK shipping on any order over £50. That threshold is likely to increase in a month or two. So just be aware that that's the current threshold. You get a discount of 5% if you order a case where cases are available. So on most of our products and on the Divine products, we offer that 5% discount for buying in case loads. We also, on top of that, offer a 5% discount for any order over £75 and a 10% discount for any order over £200. Those two obviously aren't in addition to each other. You either get 5% for over 75 or 10% for over 200. And there are some exclusions to that in terms of some of the bundle deals and non-food items and so on. But those are the sort of basic discounts. So we did used to have a different type of customer for stallholders. We actually decided it was fairer to say, if you're buying in bulk, you get a value-based discount. So that's what we now do. It's very worth looking at the special offers tab. We have one product or sometimes a range of products each month that are what we call the flavour of the month, and they will be on special offer and have somewhere between 10 and 30% off depending on what the product is and how much we can afford to offer you as a discount. There will also be other special offers in that tab if we're on the last of certain products and so on. And if you want to know more, well, Karena's going to tell you a little bit more, but if you want to know more after that, we have a customer Zoom coming up on the 26th of February where we'll be talking a lot more about this. We are looking at the idea of stall packs, as in grouping products together that we think would work for you setting up a stall. We've done it once before and we had very little take up on it, so we're not quite sure whether that's a good idea. So be really interested at the end to hear whether people would like that or whether you like the idea of being able to go in and choose the products you would like. I'm going to hand over to Karena, otherwise we're going to massively overstep our time.
Thank you, Tracy. Yes, I've just got a couple of things to say. One is that since Tradecraft stopped trading, being able to buy this variety of goods from True Origin for my stall in Kinross Church has made a massive difference, because we always bought True Origin products, the sauces and jams and rice, but I used to get my coffee and chocolate and tea from Tradecraft. And obviously when Tradecraft wasn't there, then we were really, those are the things that people buy sort of every week. And I think Tracy didn't mention, we've now got Tradecraft tea, which is available through True Origin. And now I'm not a tea drinker, but I am told that it's just as nice as the Tradecraft tea was before. And that was a real, people liked it. So that's been great to have that back. We've also got Fairtrade biscuits, which are quite new and they're really nice. So the selection of things I can get from True Origin are definitely things that people buy on my stall. And I would just say, if you can manage to buy cases, if you can manage to, get up to that £200 to get the 10% off, that, makes such a difference. And again, if you're running a stall, if you have any other churches in your area that you could possibly join up with, so that they might have a stall once a month or once every 3 months or something. It just makes such a difference. And you can also, I sometimes say to people to look at the True Origin website, and then they can let me know what they would like. So if they see something that I haven't had, they can, I can get that in. So it's very sort of useful to be able to point them in the direction of the True Origin website, so that people could give sort of requests. So I certainly, and also I'd be happy, like if anybody is interested in running a stall, I'd be really happy just to have a chat at another point. So you can put my address in if you want, if somebody just wants to have a chat. But yeah, I would definitely. And also, beer bread, I've met. So beer bread's a real good seller on our stall as well. It's great for gifts, and I took it to somebody yesterday who had made a loaf, and it's never failed to go down well. So it's a lovely, just different thing. It's like a soda bread, and it's so easy to make, but it means it's a really nice, So there's just a few unusual things that if you haven't tried, definitely worth trying. I don't want to run over our time, but
that's great. Well, thank you both. And it looks like there's plenty of products to fill the Tradecraft gap between One World Shop and True Origin. And I believe that Gavin's Mill also have stall packages as well. Can I just do the quickest little, if you think it would be a good idea for True Origin to have packages for stalls which are curated by True Origin, can you put your thumbs up? And if you would prefer to select your own gifts, stall produce, put your thumbs down, just so that Tracy can get a bit of an idea. Okay, I'm going to start. Okay, but it looks like people want to choose, Tracy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not seeing, apart from you, I'm not seeing any thumbs up. So I've only got one.
Yeah, no, I think everyone generally would prefer to choose.
I've written down that I wanted to mention dates, and I completely forgot what it was. And I've just remembered that it is to say that on the web shop, there's always the best before date is showing. So that's the least best before date you would get on a product, so you know how long you've got to sell it before it's going to go out of date. So obviously on certain things, if you're buying a case, you want to know that it's going to have a decent amount of time. And I know as a stallholder, sometimes I therefore don't buy, because I think, oh, I want it, but I don't think I can sell that much in that time. Whereas other times when I see it's 2 years away, I'll go, oh, well, that's easy, I can buy that.
Yeah, that's really useful. Okay, that's been great for me to hear about, and hopefully for all of you as well. So thank you to Lorna and Tracy and Karena, and I'll pop your email, Karena, also in the email. So now we're over to Matthew from Dunscore, who is going to share his screen and a little presentation about Dunscore's successes to get us started thinking about all of our successes.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'll just share the screen and get going. Can you see that all? Well, I can't actually see you, so Catherine, maybe you could just say that's okay.
Yeah, can see it, Matthew. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So Dunscore, we are a fair trade community, it says, and we have been a fair trade community since 2007. We actually started and we registered as a fair trade village in 2009. So what makes it work in Dunscore? I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, how we get on with that, and surprisingly, it's not all about fair trade, which, given that we're a fair trade group, is probably not what you're expecting to hear, but we'll come back to that. So Dunscore. Probably never heard of Dunscore before, or you may or may not have done. I thought I would just show myself. That's me in the t-shirt. And to my right is our wonderful local MSP, Colin Smith, who comes to everything that we run, just about, and some of the rest of the team, a few of those people that were at that particular event. So where's Dunscore? It's where the K is on this map. So you can see Dumfries down a few miles away. We're about 10 miles from Dumfries and Dunscore, and we're quite a bit south, a couple of hours from Edinburgh and Glasgow, an hour and a half Glasgow, a couple of hours from Edinburgh. So, and what's Dunscore like? Well, I just picked this out of Wikipedia to give a kind of flavour for what the village is. And the thing that I would point out is this bit here. You can maybe see my cursor going. It's a village of, it reckons here, 150 people. Now, I'm not sure where they got their 150 people from, but that sounds about right, to be fair. It's about 2 streets. You can see the picture on the right. The church at the far end is the end of the street. We're at the roundabout, and there's another street about the same. So it's not big. Interestingly, never done this before, but actually, because I was looking at that, the statement there about it being a fair trade community since 2009, that's appeared in Wikipedia since yesterday, since I just put it in. This is where it actually all began. It was one of the people in the church who'd met a fair trade producer and decided that, basically, to cut a long story short, we should become a fair trade village. And so she started off in the church, and it became a fair trade church, and then that kind of moved out into the community for us to become a fair trade village. And as I say, we did that in 2009. So I just thought it was worth considering what does a successful fair trade community look like, and some of the things that I picked up were, that says there, general understanding of fair trade by the people in the community, fair trade products used widely in the community. We don't have any shops in Dunscore, given the scale of it. 150 people doesn't really manage a shop, so we don't have the opportunity to actually have stuff in in the likes of a village shop. Also, fair trade promoted in the community, and ideally all ages involved. So what works for us in Dunscore? I'm just going to run through some of the things some of the kind of things that we've learned over the years that work for us, that might be something that would work in different communities. So first of all, invite. That's something that really has worked for us over the years. Again, bear in mind the size of the village. Here are some photos of our steering group. And this is, as you can see, over several years. The one on the bottom right is during COVID. It may not surprise you to know, because we still met as our steering group and were able to discuss on Zoom. And if you look at the top right, you'll see I was taking the photos. So apart from me, there's another 11 people in our steering group at that point. So given the scale of the village, quite a lot of people. One bottom left was interesting. We actually generally get some of the school children to come along. We have a primary school in Dunscore, And so they will quite often come to our steering group meetings. And as you can see, they were telling us about what they'd been doing at school. And also under the heading of invite, we do our best to invite our local MP, MSPs, and Colin is, as I say, is an absolute regular. Quite often we will get our MP to come along as well. Secondly, keep doing what works. During the year, we have several fixed things that we always do. If you look top left, that's actually a new one that we've been running now for a couple of years, but will continue. And that's a Christmas market, a Fairtrade Christmas market that runs in the village. This is again in the church this time. Top right is the village gala. That runs every year in the summer, and we always have a Fairtrade stall there. Bottom left is actually a pumpkin competition, or a turnip if you're Scottish. We have a decorated pumpkin competition and a prize for those that for the best pumpkins. And bottom right is the school, and they actually have an event in the spring every year for Fairtrade. And as you can see, they would be doing some Fairtrade baking. And the main thing that we do every year, which happens in what was Fairtrade Fortnight and is now no longer Fairtrade Fortnight, but we're carrying on, as I said at the start, keep doing what works. Well, this is something that works for us, is our big brew, where we have about 12 to 15 stalls in the church. That's bottom left, and soup and refreshments in the village hall, which is top left. One of our major successes is our big brew. It's been going since 2010, so it's in its 15th year this year. Review, adapt, and innovate. Sorry about the writing behind. There was a slight technical problem this evening, but review, adapt, innovate. We are quite a good steering group at looking at what works and what doesn't work. We ran this event, the Great Big Green Week Group Walk, which we did a couple of years ago. Wasn't a great success, so we've ditched that one. We did a photographic competition for a couple of years, particularly during COVID, so people could actually go for their own walk, take a photo, send it in, and they won some Fairtrade prizes. That worked for the time. We don't do that anymore. Again, during COVID, we had an issue because we couldn't run our big brew. So what we did instead was we got in touch with a winemaker in South Africa, found them online, contacted them and said, would you talk to us? So we, Dunscore, are all, let's say 150 people in the village, plus we met up with the Bosman winemakers, the Fairtrade winemakers in South Africa. It was actually a great night. It was a really interesting meeting that we had with them, an opportunity for everybody to ask them questions. Start them young. Again, something that really, really works for us in Dunscore, and probably the most important thing that we do is working with a primary school. So once a month, we go in and the children split into different groups, and one of the groups is Fairtrade Group. And so the fair traders, the fabulous fair traders as they're known, will do an activity with us. And we've got a group of 4 of us at the moment that go in once a month to do that. And we've worked towards them becoming the top level of Fair Achiever. And there are 3 levels in Fairtrade in schools, and the Fair Achiever is the top of those. So the Dunscore School is a Fair Achiever school. The picture in the top left shows children who are now probably late teens. So that was taken maybe 10 years ago. I just like that photo. And you might even have seen it on some of the Scottish Fairtrade Forum stuff about schools, because they've used that. Bottom left, they were making footballs. As you see, it's quite an interesting activity, quite a challenge for the children. And the top right, they were making Fairtrade bananas and sewing them up. And bottom right was when we were awarded with the Fair Achiever Award. Another activity that the children did, there's no children in the top left picture, but they actually, in one of the activities, was to paint that Fairtrade sheet. And then we got a local person who had a drone to come along and take a drone shot of that's the whole school in Dunscore out there. And here they are making this. This is just Christmas past, making a fair trade Christmas bunting, and that was put up in the church for the Christmas sale that we had. Also, importantly, get noticed, something we do our best again in Dunscore. We've managed to get a really good relationship with a lady in the local paper. This is the Dumfries Standard, and if we speak to her, she will put something in. Usually we'll get a big spread like this for our big brew once a year, but anything else that we do, she will put something in, and usually, as I say, a photographer will come from the Standard and take all these photos. So great for us to get the word out there. We also have a Facebook group. We find that Facebook is what works best for us. And on here, again, bearing in mind the size of our village, if you see just here, just under Dunscore Fairtrade Village, we have 362 members in this group. So it's something that can work and can develop. Now that's been going for almost as long as the group has been going. So it's been going, about 17 years or something like that. So it has built up over time, but quite significant given the scale of the village. And particularly the school posts attract a lot of interest. And as you can see at the bottom right, the post reach, for us, that's pretty much viral in Dunscore. Post reach of 760. It's actually more than that now, but when I put this on the slide, it was 760. That's a lot of people for Dunscore. So again, getting the message out to the village and beyond about Dunscore and fair trade. And as I said at the start, it's not all about fair trade. I do struggle with this sometimes because we have events and I'm kind of going, this is not very fair tradey, but it's actually something that's worth considering. Everything you do doesn't have to necessarily be fair trade, although it really does have to have some sort of an angle on it. This is one that we do, as I said earlier on, we have this pumpkin competition, and not much fair trade about the pumpkin competition, but we do give a hamper as a prize, so the fair tradeness comes through in that. And again, our sales, the big brew that we do once a year in the spring, if you look at the stalls, there's not a whole lot of fair trade going on there, but we do, where we can, we encourage local fair trade companies to come, and we usually have 3 or 4 out of the dozen or so stalls which are actually genuinely fair trade. As you can see, the two in the bottom left are wearing our Dunscore aprons. They're 2 people on our steering group, but the products are definitely not fair trade. They're homemade. So what does success look like? We said at the start, a list of things that meant success. How are we doing against them? A general understanding in the village about fair trade. I think everybody knows about fair trade in Dunscore. I wouldn't say that everybody is switched on about it or really understands, but everybody's aware about it. Fair trade products used widely in the community. Indeed, they are. If you go into the village hall, you would generally find fair trade products. Not always, not all of them necessarily, but you do find them. If you go into the pub, there's a community pub, probably find some fair trade products. You definitely find them in the school. You definitely find them in the church, and a lot of the people in the community use them. Fair trade promoted in the community, absolutely, definitely. All ages involved, pretty much tick that box. We still do have people, I have to say, going back to the products used widely, people who still say, despite us having been a fair trade village for all these years, 17 years or whatever it is, people who have the I don't like fair trade thing that I'm sure many of you are aware and have come across. So even after all that time, sadly, that doesn't go away, but we do our best. So works for us, invite, keep doing what works, review, adapt, innovate, start them young and get noticed. And there is me. Again, email hopefully will be added onto the list if anybody wants to get in touch about any of the things that we do. Very happy to hear from anybody.
Thank you so much, Matthew. If I could find the clapping hands quick enough, I would put them up. So interesting to hear. Oh, Catherine's found them for me. Thank you. So interesting to hear about where it all came from and just the success you've got with a village of just 150 people. It's just amazing, really, something to be really proud of, I think, and hopefully some useful tips for the rest of us listening in. So thank you, Matthew. That was excellent. I've got a question though before we kick off with the general. Oh, Liz has got her hand up. Just a quick one, Matthew. Do you have the sort of 18 to 28 age group in the village?
We don't see them. I think we, as I say, we have a primary school, and then they kind of disappear for us, and then we kind of pick up folk that are our student group includes people who are parents of children at the primary school and at the secondary school. But no, we've kind of missed that band somewhat.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but never really have managed to include them.
Yeah.
I think partly because the secondary school is away from the village, so
yeah.
Otherwise we would no doubt be kind of on the knocking the door of that, but it doesn't really work for us.
Of course. So this is going to be a big focus for us in this coming in next couple of years. So hopefully we can share what we find out with all of you in terms of that age group. Liz, you've got your hand up. Do you want to?
Yeah, it was just something that Dunscore does extremely well, which I think we as another very rural community has picked up on, is about saying that fair trade is not in competition with local farmers, but in fact it's complementary. And I think, you know, your big brew, when you have local bacon and local milk and all of these things, and so people see, you know, that's one of the most common comments we get in our very rural community in Castle Douglas with farmers, that, you know, it's all very well you're promoting fair trade, but, you know, what about us? And I think we've picked up some of the messaging and some of the way that Dunscore has dealt with that in their events over the years. So really good practice there that I think we can all share and learn from. Thanks.
That's a great point, Liz. And
I mean, we actually very specifically at the outset, and it's written into our constitution, actually, we support local and fair trade in our fair trade group, just because of exactly that point that Liz was making. That you know, we all already, you know, just starting up the group, we were getting that sort of negative feedback of, you know, what about us though? You need to support local farmers, and so we consciously do both things.
I think that's right. So we tackled that head on in our campaigner conference last year, and the conclusion was just what Liz summarised for us there. So yeah, both go hand in hand, I think. So the floor is open now. Just if anyone would like to come in with something that's worked for their group or a question, you can pop it in the chat or pop your hand up, and yeah, over to you. Would anyone? I'm just checking if there's any hands up. Winifred, you've got your hand up.
I was just going to add to what Matthew said about local. That's why in Dumfries and other villages in the region, we created the belted Galloway mascot to show that we were in support of farmers in the region. And today I was in one of the schools in Dumfries with our Dooney, the belty, and the children get that.
Yeah, and there's so much in common between farming communities. So yeah, that's I didn't realise that's where belty came from. So that's really useful to know.
Can I just say that Dunscore's also got a belty. So
right, so belties are everywhere.
We've got Duncan.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, Tracy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to just say something with my Lindsay Fairtrade Group hat on, nothing to do directly with True Origin. Partly as a result of COVID, we have largely stopped running our own events, and we have looked hard for local events that we can run stalls at. And we've found that we've actually increased our sales significantly as a result, partly because we're all focused on the stall at the event, not making teas and coffees for people and running around doing all sorts of other jobs. We had some brilliantly well attended events before COVID, but I think a lot of our effort was being spent on organising the event, not promoting fair trade and so on. So having stalls at other people's events has been really, really helpful for us. And I think, I mean, I wasn't involved in the lead up to Christmas, but I think there was something like £1,700 worth of sales in the stalls that we attended in the lead up to Christmas. It was significant.
Yeah, that is significant, Tracy. Thank you for that. A good tip to look out for other events going on in your area and maybe piggyback on there. And you were asked if there's fair trade water printed out. Yes, absolutely. Anne, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm in Glasgow Fairtrade Group. I think you came to one of our events last year, Catherine. It's nice to see you again. We have one of our favourite items is we have a coffee afternoon in March, and we have a poster and poetry competition with all the local schools. We're lucky we've got so many primary schools, but you could probably do it with one primary school. And we have prizes for different age groups. And we get lots and lots of posters, and they're great. The children are so well up on it. They know exactly what fair trade is. It's really good. And we get poetry as well. And we find that's really good. And they have a fair trade Easter egg as a prize. So, so that's one that does work for us.
That's great. Thanks for that, Anne. Got thumbs up from others. Liz is asking, does anyone have good practice or how they're influencing public bodies around procurement? Let me just see if anyone's got. If I don't notice you, just please unmute and reply to Liz, or come in on the conversation if you'd like to.
Well, this came up at a recent meeting we had with Colin Smith, actually, our MSP. He came to one of our meetings, and we had a long discussion with him about it because, as you know, he's the chair of the cross-party group in Parliament on fair trade, and he has been working on that for years. And they're trying to, well, I know you're involved as well, trying to find out from local authorities how much they're spending relatively on fair trade products, but also the NHS, which we've been concerned about for years, whether they use fair trade products at all. So as a group, we're thinking of putting in an FOI to try and find out, or raise the issue anyway.
Thank you, Winifred. Kat, you've popped your hand up. Can't hear you, Kat. Sorry.
Is that better? Yes. Well, I haven't tried it yet, and I don't know if it's the same for your council, but in Aberdeen, we're 3 authorities with the joint procurement service. So my thinking was, because I work in the council, and you'd think I'd be able to get hold of procurement people, but I'm sure they hide somewhere because they're not the most communicative of people that I've found. But so my plan was, and that I'm hoping to do is approach it from the 3 councils with their fair trade reps, and maybe take it from that modern slavery approach as an action against modern slavery. I don't know if that'll be successful. I can let you know in the future, but that was my kind of thinking for going ahead with getting more procurement, because like the only information I get is actually through the Scottish Fair Trade FOIs, and I work within the same body, but so it's really useful having that there. in so they can give us the information. Because I think before, the previous people that did the post would literally have to sift through invoices in the past. So yeah, it's not an answer, but I would be interested to know if anybody's got an alternative way to look at this.
Louise, do you want to come in?
Well, I was just going to update that we're just pulling together the procurement report from the last year. So we've issued freedom of information requests to all the councils to try and gather what the what the numbers of fair trade products people are buying. So that will be published by the end of March. So you'll be able to see what your local authority is doing, and then we'll be happy to work with you to follow up directly, because we'll do our own follow-up, but it's obviously really powerful if people are hearing from their own community that people care about this, because what we've heard before is there's no demand, so we need to evidence the demand, and that's where you guys can come in and support. So there'll be a bit coming from us on that, and there's also a campaign I think Fairtrade Foundation are going to be working on in May, which apparently is top secret, so I will not reveal it, but it's about something that everybody buys all the time and making that fair trade. And we thought that would be a really easy one to go into local government and say, what's your purchasing decision on X product, a very obvious product, and explain all of the issues with that product around modern slavery and unfair trading and why fair trade is the best choice. So there hopefully will be some resources coming your way in the next couple of months to help support a bit on the procurement side of things.
Want to go Kat, and then we'll go to Russell.
So I've been working on a review within the council, so I can kind of apply some actions from that, and like where's their strengths and weaknesses. But the last year, so some of the activities that we did, I came across quite a lot of people that didn't understand like the fair trade and what it meant. So, and one was an academic actually, and it really surprised me because they were like, well, what's fair trade got to do with climate and climate change and climate emergency? And I was like, what? And it really struck me, is like, is there a perception that they see fair trade as a brand and not a standard? And it's got me thinking about, we've got to really start thinking about our messaging and what are we saying and promoting it. Because I think we do. I think there's a lot of people out there that see a brand over that standard.
Thanks, Kat. Louise, do you want to come in on the climate? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just a couple of things. One thing I should just mention then is the public procurement guidance that goes out to all buyers across the public sector, which Scottish Fair Trade Martin particularly gave some evidence to the Fair Work Committee, and Colin Smith has been massively pushing this as well to try and get a definition of fair trade in law. We haven't managed to get it in law, but it is going in the guidance that public sector buyers use to inform their decisions. So hopefully, we've sent the draft copy over for the Scottish Government to include, but they've agreed in principle there's going to be some explanation of what fair trade is. We're particularly pointing buyers to the fair trade mark or the WFTO mark, but we're explaining what it means and directing people to the 10 principles. So that's going to be really helpful if you're speaking to anyone who is a buyer, that you can give them a link to this particular bit of guidance. Because before we were saying to people, well, in the law, it says they have to consider ethical and fair trade in their purchasing decisions, but there's nothing there to tell them what those things mean. So that's good on procurement. And then on the climate piece, Kat, just to say, in our plans for the next year is to commission some work, probably a bit of academic research, to really explore this link between climate and fair trade, and hopefully evidence that the fair trade system really supports farmers and growers to tackle the climate crisis. So there is, I think we maybe shared some links the last time that the Fair Trade Foundation have on that. But I think we feel the same, that we just need a bit more, like a lot more detail really to kind of help us make that case. And then it helps us make the case to policymakers, but also we'll turn that into some public messaging too. So that's definitely in our plans for the year.
Russell, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just going back to the point about influencing public bodies. Maybe not everybody's in the same position, but we've been able to use a couple of our councillors to introduce us to the procurement people who work within the Edinburgh Council. And we've been successful in actually getting a couple of them to participate in our Edinburgh Fairtrade Group. We have found that they don't have good reporting on fair trade within their reporting system. We're trying to help them with that, but they've been very helpful with us explaining how things work, how you can get organizations registered with them and other things. So it might not work for everybody, but that was our way into it.
Thank you for that, Jeanette, have you got your hand up? Yeah.
I was just going to say, somebody came up to talk about signs, and I'm in South Queensferry, Edinburgh, but as we enter South Queensferry, it comes up, welcome to, this is a fair trade town, and we're not Edinburgh, we're South Queensferry, and we're a fair trade royal borough. So we've been fighting with the council for a wee while now to try and get a sign up, and we're getting nowhere, so it's quite frustrating. But just somebody came up and talked about signs. So although there's a sign as you come over the Forth Bridge, it's really for Edinburgh, not for Queensferry. And also, can I just say that we've got a really good relationship with ScotMid, and they're very good with us, and they sell a lot of fair trade. And when it's Fair Trade Fortnight, we're allowed to have a stall, and they provide all the stuff for us. And we tend to have something every year when it is. In fact, last year when it was supposed to be February, before we knew it was September, I'd organised my guild to have a fair trade wine evening, and a local chap from Edinburgh came out and spoke to us, and that was a really good and a successful evening. And this year we're going to have a floral display, and in September with a coffee evening, or maybe wine. We've not got that organised yet, but and can I just say, the One World Shop are great. You can just park outside in Lothian Road, run in, get your order and come back out again. So don't be put off if you're having to go into Edinburgh, because there's parking there. Okay. And I've also just got involved with the primary school, so I'm so excited about that, because I've tried for years to get them involved. So we're just getting involved with them. So just thought I'd let you know. Okay.
Thanks so much for that, Jeanette. Yeah, there's lots to say about signs. It's maybe one that I can take over into our next campaigning together session, but I actually looked through our files, and I did find an information piece that staff had put together at Scottish Fair Trade before about signs, so I will look that out and try and share that with you as well in my follow-up. But yeah, I can maybe bring that into a future meeting, and we can talk a little bit more about signs. Before we sort of
Hello.
Oh, Steve, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm going to Edinburgh on Friday. I'm going to a Picari event. Have you heard of Picari?
Yeah.
And I will be signposting us to get them to do it, and they're doing it in a really big, posh new building next to opposite the Balmoral Hotel. It's a chocolate and fragrance night.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I've done a Picari tasting. In fact, I think it was during COVID, but it was, yeah, amazing, and the chocolate's delicious.
Well, I know Juan personally, because we used to do chocolate and whiskey tasting.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know how well the me drinking posh aftershave will go down. But I'll certainly be posting up. I'd like to say I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Well, everyone, yeah, I think everyone here tonight is doing a great job flying the fair trade flag, which so thanks for that, Steve. So we're on 7 minutes. I want to finish on time because I'm sure some of you haven't eaten yet and things like that. So maybe just one last something that works for one of your groups, just for us to end on. Is there anyone that would like to come in on something we've maybe not spoken about or popped in the chat just to finish off? Karena.
So just to say that if you are wanting to get your council involved, what's worked really well in Perth and Kinross is I wrote to each of the wards individually by an email and said, would somebody volunteer to be our fair trade champion for this ward? And so since 2016, 2017, even though we've had elections and things, we've managed to have a champion for each ward, and that's meant we've always had 12 people to go to whenever we've got a question that we want to ask the council about, and it's made a massive difference, compared with trying to just, if you've only got maybe one person in the council or two, so I would just say that's worked really well, and it's really helpful.
That's excellent. Thanks for that, Karena. Steve, sorry, we just need to finish off now. Would you mind popping your piece?
Well, I'd just like to say that I know the Trade and Industry Secretary at the Scottish Parliament, Ivan McKee, and I will get him involved.
Brilliant. Thank you for that.
Because basically he was a successful businessman, but he made his success out of countries that were on the debt justice list, which I'm a member of, and he loves fair trade.
He does.
So I will do my best. I'm sorry, but councillors are a bit low down on my list. I don't work with councillors. That might sound pedantic, but I work with Alex Salmon and Betol, if you know what I mean.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Sorry, I will now stop.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that input. Okay, we've just got a couple of little announcements before we close, but thank you very much to everyone for coming along again this evening. I hope you found it useful. Just to let you know, please, I popped my email in the chat a wee while ago, but it's catherine@scottishfairtrade.org. And if you do want to request some leaflets, posters, or a social media chat, please just drop me an email. I'll pop this in the follow-up email as well. We have our Scottish Fair Trade Awards coming up, being launched at the beginning of March, but we've revised them for this year. So they are now going to be, well, we're trialing this year. It's more of a competition and more of a focus on a younger age group. So we've got a primary category, and then we've got a secondary and over 18 category. So we ourselves are going to be getting out and into member universities and colleges and distributing information there. But we're going to be asking you, campaigners, to contact your local schools with a link to a web page that we're going to have set up about the awards. And there's also a PDF that can be shared by email, which has the same content as the web page. But basically, we've got 5 categories, and there'll be 5 winners, 5 runners-up, and the announcement on the winners will be made on World Fair Trade Day, which is the 10th of May, Saturday the 10th this year, after which time we'll then organise to get out and visit the winners of each of the categories. So that's coming up. As I say, the 3rd of March we're launching, but the information will come out to you a little bit before that, so that you're ready for the 3rd of March to get out and into your community, into schools or wherever you can share that information. You probably heard or seen on social media, I'm just sharing the link with you now. Everyone is invited as a campaigner. It is really probably Russell that should be introducing this, but the Edinburgh Fairtrade Group bid to hold the International Fairtrade Towns Conference in Edinburgh this year and has been successful, and we're working in partnership with the group on that conference. And if you look at the webpage I've just shared, you will also find a link on there to get your tickets and to read all about the conference. So really excited that that's coming to Edinburgh at the end of August, and really hope that as many of you as possible will join.
I've got my ticket already.
You do. You have got your ticket already, absolutely. So everyone needs to get theirs before they run out.
Before the rush starts.
Yeah. Thanks for that comment, Karena. Yeah, I should just say that it's £15 to cover the 2 days of the conference, and that's thanks to a donation from the Fairtrade Foundation specifically to reduce the cost of tickets for campaigners. But there's also been significant donations from City of Edinburgh Council, the Scottish Government, ScotMid. I'm not forgetting anyone there, am I?
Can I quickly interject again? If you are on benefits, they have just reduced my ticket from £15 to £0.
That's right. So yeah, we have that available to for people just to let us know if they're not able to pay the
Catherine,
Yeah.
I bought mine for £7.50 because you can do the free ticket.
Yes, you if you can't afford to pay either the £7.50 for 1 day or the £15 for 2 days, you're able to email me and I can send you out a code which then reduces the cost of the ticket to £0. So now I am going to hand over to Louise to finish off, to close for this evening.
Thanks, Catherine. Conscious of a short time, so yeah, just briefly to thank everyone for speaking today. It's so interesting to hear about Mary Beth's PhD. I can't wait to hear that. It's going to be really useful to inform our work. And thanks to Tracy and Karena and Lorna with all of the info about fantastic things everyone can have on their stalls, and Matthew at Dunscore, some really inspirational stuff there. We can all try and get 10% of our communities to be part of Fairtrade groups. That would be quite an achievement, wouldn't it? But I just wanted to let you know about our Fairtrade Nation status, which we've probably been talking about to you for a while, because it's been a long time coming to renew Scotland's status as a Fairtrade Nation. So the criteria of what it means to be a nation were reconsidered last year, and we did a lot of work, well, before my time, so the team did an awful lot of work putting together the data and evidence to show that we are still a fair trade nation, and we've had an independent panel who very vigorously considered whether we were a fair trade nation or not, and finally have concluded that we are still a fair trade nation. So definitely something to celebrate, but also lots of learnings and lots of things that we need to keep on top of in order to make sure we stay this way. So the formal announcement of that will be happening next month. We're just waiting for a few things to fall into place about how we announce that. So we'll keep you posted, but we really want to use this as a moment to try and encourage everyone in Scotland and lots of institutions to play their part in keeping Scotland a fair trade nation. So we'll be asking for your support in communicating that, particularly to councils, for example. So we're really keen to try and get more councils doing the procurement thing better, but being part of fair trade, getting them involved to become members of Scottish Fair Trade. So we've got 11 out of the 32 councils are members of Scottish Fair Trade at the moment, and we really would like to get the whole lot. So if you're in an area which doesn't have your council as a member of our organisation, we'd love to link up with you, and we'll do a pincer approach and get them on board. So lots of things coming your way, and lots of things to get involved in over the coming months. So thank you for coming. And just before you go, we would just love it if you could just quickly fill in a poll. This really helps for our evidence and helps us report back to our funders that these sorts of events are working. So if you wouldn't mind just quickly completing this little poll, that would be super helpful. Excellent. And yeah, I think if you scroll down, is there a second question there? Yeah, okay, there's two questions. So yeah. everyone has answered, I think. So thank you so much for that, and see you at the next one of these. And I'm sure we'll have lots more interesting stuff to report then. But yeah, lots of stuff coming your way soon. So great to see you and have a good evening.